driving the bus.
Yep. All right. Hey, everyone. Just wanted to do a quick interview today with one of my favorite people, Matt George, who's been an appraiser for many years in the Denver market. And he was like the #1 appraiser that our company that I've been with for 20 years has always used, and has become a trusted source, even though with lending regulations, we don't really get to chat too much like we used to in the old days. But I know I've made some introductions to Matt to some real estate agents who see him as a very valuable part of their team when they're running into some issues. So thanks, Matt, for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, I think why don't we maybe just start off with just a really basic explanation of what an appraiser does and how you fit into this whole puzzle.
An appraiser is the value expert in the equation for the loan. And so we are important because the lender who sells the loan in the secondary market and has underwriters and different people that are looking at the appraisal to make sure the value is really there. And so as an appraiser, we have guidelines that we have to adhere to on every appraisal that we do. And each appraisal we'll do the inspection, and we'll do the research, we'll do the market analysis. We do everything that's relevant to value. And it takes us several hours to do just one appraisal. Mm-hmm. And so it's a lot of work, and I could go into more detail, but that just pretty much wraps it up. We spend hours on every single appraisal, and especially now, Giuseppe, because the market is just so whacked out. It's really difficult as an appraiser, because how are you figuring stuff out in this constantly changing market?
Yeah, and it definitely seems like it's constantly changing. At the beginning of 2021, we had more low appraisals, right, than I've seen probably in 20 years combined. And that was just because everyone woke up January 1st and decided to start bidding up the price of homes 10%, and they weren't closing at those prices in December. Right. So now there just weren't those comparables at market, certainly as the year progressed last year and this year, even though that aggressive bidding on homes has continued. We've seen, maybe last month, if we helped 25 families, we probably had like 3 low appraisals. So much less than maybe the 50% low appraisals that we saw first quarter of 2021. So an appraisal is so important in how it's done, because a lot of people don't know this, but when an appraisal comes in, it's not just the number. It goes to an underwriter for the bank, and they are scrutinizing it, and they need to make sure that the number is accurate, that the adjustments are accurate. So when we see, for example, me personally, that it's a Matt George appraisal, I'm like, it's going to fly through underwriting. Like, we never have to go back to you like we do with some other appraisers and say, hey, the underwriter thought this adjustment was too aggressive, and all these things that just slow down the process. So, really, we appreciate the work that you do. I wish we could pick our appraisers, and who knows, maybe that'll be coming back down the road. But so what have you, based on that rapid appreciation that we saw last year, this year, how did you find yourself in that market? Because I'm sure at first everybody, as soon as a value comes in low, everyone's like, oh, the appraiser doesn't know what he's doing. That's usually what the first reaction is. And maybe sometimes that is the case. I know with our core group of appraisers, we don't run into that. But how have you handled it?
We in the industry, we'll obviously hear that, because anytime an appraisal comes in lower than the sale price, then somebody's going to say, oh, the appraiser doesn't know what they're doing. That's but we have to understand the main principle that all appraisers go by, and that is comps rule the court. If we have comps, then we can support that contract price. But if we do not have comps, it's not going to happen. And so it's all about the comps. And I've had people where I would send me some comps, and they would send me comps that were completely in a different subdivision or a different property or much larger or much superior. And I go, it's not a comp. And underwriters aren't stupid. They're quite smart, brilliant in some cases, where they understand all the nuances and they're reviewing this stuff. So an appraiser has to adhere to these guidelines of, hey, give me comps and we'll make the thing sort into it, reflecting the market. People will say, well, the appraisal should be reflecting the market because the prices are going up and all of that. The fact of the matter is, Giuseppe, is that the market went up so quickly that appraisal guidelines, not appraisers, but appraisal guidelines couldn't even keep up with how quickly it was going up. I mean, let's put this in perspective. We had markets that were going up 25% in 1 year. 25%. We have not seen that in 40 years. So that's an astronomical rate. And so yes, we were doing date adjustments. Yes, we were trying to keep up, but there were houses that were selling higher than anything. I mean, $100,000 more than anything. And so from an appraiser perspective, an appraisal guideline perspectives, we couldn't catch up with the market. And so what I would tell people is that, hey, listen, once you close, you're going to be the next comp for the next person. So if the market continues to increase, don't sweat it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And how do, I think we get this question a lot, how do homes that are pending under contract but not closed yet, do those weigh at all into an appraisal valuation? That's a
Fantastic question. And the answer is absolutely. There are some appraisers that they'll say, well, it hasn't closed and so I'm not using it. And I'm like, you're nuts. You need to use it because it reflects the most current reaction of the market. Now, here's the catch to that. The way it becomes a valid comp in terms, it won't be comp 1, 2, or 3. I'm fine with that. It'll be my 4th comp. But the reason that you'll use it is because it's the most recent transaction. But here's the caveat. In my case, I want to make sure that the appraisal has been done and that they're simply waiting for the closing.
Yes.
In other words, I want to make sure that the price that they're telling me is valid. So I'll call that agent. Some agents say, I'm not going to tell you. And I'm like, that's fine. But legally, they can tell you as long as they have permission from the seller. But I'm sure they know that. But the issue really at hand is saying, hey, any pending sale that I can get that information on it, if the agent provides that information, please, let's get it because we're on the same team.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've seen agents do some pretty sophisticated things where they know a comparable is closing, right, on the 25th. And so they will put our appraisal deadline like on the 26th so that, you know, the appraiser can know that that is a closed comp and be used.
And I say, God bless them. Thanks so much. We're not, you know, some people go, that appraiser's just coming in low. And I'm like, you think we're really trying to kill a deal? Come on, that makes no sense at all. Yeah. Our job is to reflect the market. If we can make it work, we will. But if we can't, we won't.
Yeah. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but any ideas on what the future holds? I mean, starting to see, you know, the media is always as negative, you know, and kind of fear inspiring, fear mongering as possible, it seems like. So, you know, I've done some research. I've subscribed to some services where I've gotten some data where, you know, like if we look back at the last 8 recessions, you know, obviously the housing bubble that led to prices moving lower, but every other recession, essentially prices remain the same, stable or continued higher. So there's a lot of starting to hear some, you know, as we're recording this, you know, mid-May, a lot of talk in the news about a possible recession. And that is very likely when the Fed starts hiking interest rates like this. It's very common that we end up in a recession in a year, and that will lead to lower mortgage rates. So, but how about values? Like, what do you see in the future? Again, not going to hold you to this, but I'm just curious as to your opinion.
Well, one of the things, Giuseppe, you and I both do, and we like numbers. We like statistics. We like reading about these trends and everything like that. So I do the same thing as you're doing, as I'm just trying to look as many sources as I can. On every appraisal I do a micro analysis of what's going on in terms of of what's really happening. But there are some key indicators that I'm looking at that are showing that we could be in a flattening. We could be in something that we're a leveling off. If we see a recession, then we all know then we'll see declines in market. That's kind of. But here are the big things. The number of showings has decreased. Okay, so, you know, we used to have 70 or 80 showings in 2 days or 3 days, something like that. That's not happening on as many properties. So that is an indicator. And then the rise in interest rates, obviously, they've, you know, gone from 3% to 6%, you know, and in 3 months or 6 months time, that's a drastic impact on affordability. And so that will have an impact on some of the neighborhoods that we're going to be looking at. But still, the reason I'm not saying that things are going to crash, if we have a recession, it's different because then jobs and everything else are impacted. But if we still have strong job market, then here's the reason I don't think we're going to see a decline in market. We still have a short supply in the Metro Denver area.
Yeah, extremely short, right? And
Thank you very much.
I don't know how many homes hit the market yesterday. I saw last week there was about 6,000 on the market. Compare that to January when there was 1,500. But a trusted agent that I know and spoke with, she mentioned a normal May might be 20,000. So it's an extreme shortage. I kind of feel like, yes, unfortunately, some buyers are getting priced out, and rates moving higher are not for everyone, even though we all know 5s and 6s are historically average interest rates. They're not high rates. They're just not pandemic rates. So I think that's going to kind of balance out the equation a little bit because, 20 people making an offer on one house, the people that want to buy, that can buy, but don't have $100,000 extra, right? They've struggled mightily this year. And hopefully, as long as we kind of make it clear that, hey, these rates, they're not high historically. This is a good time to buy. You should buy a home for the long term always. And hopefully it'll, balance out the market a little bit so that some first time buyers can get in and people can maybe start making contingent offers again, which was like unheard of. And even though that's like the norm historically, and it just made people do lots of interesting things, to try and get into a home because they assumed they couldn't take a contingent offer,
right,
and have it accepted. So
Giuseppe, that's one of the reasons I think why there's several reasons you do so great, but one of the reasons that really you're on top of that, saying, hey, you guys, these interest rates today are not abnormal. In the scope of the history of loans, it's just not. You got used to 3%. Well, that wasn't normal. And so you're right. There's still such a demand. I mean, so you're on top of that of just educating your clients of, hey, we still have a short supply.
Yeah. And that'll support values.
Exactly.
People want to move here. I've been having this conversation with people for the last couple of years. Now with COVID, a lot more remote work, lots of people moving from other states because we just happen to live in a really desirable state. And so, I think the demand will continue to support prices and give us a healthy real estate market, hopefully here. So
you're right.
All right. Very good. Well, do you want to give out a phone number? I know obviously if someone's getting a loan, we have to order the appraisal, but there's a lot of people that are wondering maybe on values in case they want to reach out to you and hire an appraiser.
Sure. You actually just go to Eagle Appraisals, Colorado. You Google me and our company, and then we've got a team that we work with. And so, yeah, you'll find us. There's another Eagle Appraisals in Texas. So you got to go Eagle Appraisals, Colorado.
Got it. All right. Very good. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, Matt. Really appreciate your time. I know you're busy, and thanks again for taking the time and giving us some appraisal wisdom.
Glad to do it.
All right. Thanks, Matt. See ya.
See.
Bye.